I'm Fred Wilson. I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in high-tech startups and do it at a firm called Union Square Ventures, which is here in New York City. We've invested in companies like Twitter and Etsy, Foursquare, Tumblr, also some education startups like Edmodo and Codecademy, and some finance companies like Lending Club, those kinds of things. We are looking for what we call networks. The internet is obviously a massive global network, and we're looking for businesses who have similar kinds of architectures in terms of the business model and the technology. So we want to invest in companies that connect ideally millions and millions of people together. It could be buyers and sellers, or it could be authors and readers, or it could be musicians and listeners. We're looking for these really large, highly engaged networks. That's the fundamental thing we want to invest in. I have a friend who's an entrepreneur, and about 4 or 5 years ago, he said to me that he was going to start a company someday. He's a software designer type, and he said, someday I'm going to start a company. I don't want to go to business school, but there's a lot of things I don't know about business, and I would love to be able to learn these things without having to go to business school. And he said to me, you have an MBA and you've been working in business for 25 years, you know all this stuff, why don't you just write this on your blog, and then me and the tens of thousands of other people like me could read it on your blog, and then we wouldn't have to go to business school. And I'm quite interested in online education, and I thought to myself, well, of course, I should be doing that, and not just me, but other people in my profession should be doing that as a way to, help educate people on things that they need to know, that they should know, and we can help them know them without having to necessarily go spend $100,000 or more on an MBA. When I first started, I was thinking, like I was just going to take all the stuff that I learned in business school and just sort of write it down. And it's turned out to be a lot more than that, because it's led me to now start teaching classes. So we're sitting right now in the Union Square event space, and we often turn this into a classroom. We can teach 75 people at a time in here. So I've started teaching face-to-face classes on some of this material. I'm now doing a Skillshare class that 2,500 people have enrolled on another set of material. And then I've seen professors take some of this content and put it into their curriculum at different universities around the country. So it's definitely gone in all kinds of directions that I wouldn't have thought it had gone on. But that's the internet. That's the power of just putting stuff out on the internet without any restrictions. Is it just goes places, and it grows organically, and that's what's happened with this. I change my mind a fair bit. Usually it's a little nuanced. For example, I wrote a post that I think you included in your book about convertible debt, and my view is that I, as an investor, don't like to buy convertible debt. And so the blog post I wrote was fairly negative on the topic. But there's a lot of people out there who actually think convertible debt is a good thing, and I got a lot of feedback from them. Hey Fred, you're wrong about this. Had you thought about this reason why it's good, or this reason it's good, or this reason it's good? So my view has changed a little bit on convertible debt. I still am not a fan of buying it myself here at Union Square Ventures, but I understand why people might want to do that, and so I guess I'm not as negative on it as I was when I wrote the post. I think it's important to write it in layman's terms, to understand that the people who are reading it are not experts, and they may find the subject matter intimidating. So lots of examples. So you're writing about something like convertible debt, talk about an example. XYZ company, this is what was going on, this is what the founder wanted, this is what the investors wanted. They put this structure together, and this is why it worked for them or it didn't work for them. So examples are important. Real world examples are best, as opposed to imaginary examples. And keeping it short. I tend to write blog posts that, if you print it out on a piece of paper, would be no more than 2 or 2.5 pages, and oftentimes they could fit on a single page. And so I guess the way I think about it is I like to try to keep the ideas short. If I'm gonna, and I do my MBA Mondays every week, right? So over the course of 2 or 3 years, you could create a textbook, but the individual posts are short, and I find that that's better for people to try to consume ideas in relatively short quantities. The piece of advice I probably give most often to people, not just the companies we invest in, but all the companies that I meet with, is that starting a company is really a 2-phase process. Phase 1 is all about the product, and what I advise people to do in that stage is not think about building a company or building a business at all, but just put the smallest possible team you can put together, ideally get everybody in the same room, and just crank on the product and get it in front of people as quickly as possible, and keep working at it until you are getting signals back from the market that you've built something that people love and that you've succeeded with the product building stage. And then the second stage is completely different stage. That's the building a business stage, and it's going to become a lot less about the product and much more about the team and the company that you build up around the product. And the skills that you need in those 2 phases are very different, and the focus that you need to have in those 2 stages are very different. And the mistakes people make is they start building a company before they've actually built the right product, or they stick with the product phase too long and they don't get to building a company, and then they end up having problems because they can't respond effectively to the demands of the market because they haven't gone and built the organizational infrastructure around their product. And so, just understanding that it's a 2-phase process and the 2 phases are very different, and finding that magic moment where you need to switch, that's the art of building a company and building a startup. The thing you look for is when are the demands of the market starting to cause your company to not be able to meet them. So, for example, if there's so many hits on your server that your servers are crashing, or you have too many customers and you can't support them with the existing support team, or if the feature requests that are coming in are more than your engineering team can handle, that's a sign that people love your product so much that you need to now go build a company around your product to support it. And that, I think, if you're really looking for those signs and intellectually honest about the signs, you'll be able to know when you've passed phase 1 and going into phase 2. Once you go into phase 2, and it's a really hard thing for founders to do, you need to either decide that you're going to continue to own the product and you're going to bring in somebody as a business partner who's going to really focus on building the company, or you need to take yourself out of product and promote people from below or possibly recruit people in to own product, and you need to shift to be the person who's building the company. And I don't think you can do both at the same time very well. I've seen a ton of entrepreneurs try to do both, and they get stretched too thin. Well, first of all, mentors are critical because, particularly if you've never done it before, you need somebody who can help you. And we try to be a mentor, but the problem with being a venture capitalist and being a mentor is that the entrepreneur knows that they may need certain things from us, like they may need another round of financing from us, or they may need other things from us, and so they end up managing their relationship with us in such a way that they, keep those options open. And a mentor, sometimes you need to be brutally honest with, and I think many entrepreneurs don't want to be brutally honest with their investors. So as much as we want to be that mentor for them, and we can be, I think it's better for entrepreneurs to have other people as well who have done it before, who they can get close to the company. What I mean by close to the company is somebody who's willing to stop by the company every week and maybe have a cup of coffee or spend a half an hour, who probably has a little bit of stock in the company, so they actually really care about how it's doing. And somebody who's done the job before, who can say, You know, a great example is I have this engineer who's incredibly valuable, and I don't think we could get it done without them. But you know, everybody in the company hates them, and they're driving everybody crazy. And I've seen that problem a lot myself. And you know, getting somebody who's been through that situation before and can advise the entrepreneur how to deal with something like that is really, really helpful. So I don't think it's one mentor. Sometimes I think it's 2 or 3 mentors. Sometimes a mentor will be really good on strategy. Sometimes a mentor will really be good on day-to-day management issues. Sometimes a mentor will really be good on sales or marketing or something like that. So if you can find a group of people who really do care about your company and are willing to come in and give you, you know, candid, honest, unfettered advice, it's really important. The most important thing to be a mentor is to be present in the relationship, meaning being there on a regular basis, face-to-face, one-on-one, no distractions, just listening, talking, and doing it consistently and repeatedly over a significant period of time. It's amazing the impact that a mentor can have if they really do invest that. There's so many. But you know, my former partner, Jerry Colonna, who's now a CEO coach, has been a mentor to me. And it seems odd that I would say that a partner of mine has been a mentor, but partners can be mentors. In fact, my partner, Brad, here at Union Square Ventures has also been a mentor to me. But Jerry taught me how important the people side of the business was. I had come up through the finance side of the business, and I was very focused on the transactional parts of the business. You know, how much money are we going to invest, and how much of the company are we going to own, and how do we get this to be a profitable business, and how do we make a financial return? And this was in my mid-30s, and he kind of shook me and said, you know, none of that's going to work, Fred, if the people stuff isn't working. And that was when I sort of had an aha moment about that, and I've really, you know, made that an important part of what I do ever since. I'm very excited about New York and where we find ourselves in New York right now. I feel like we've gotten enough scale in the tech community in New York now that we have all of the pieces that a really healthy, vibrant tech community has, including lots of mentors, lots of people who've done it before, lots of angel investors, which is really, really critical, lots of VCs, and of course, lots of entrepreneurs. And we have now deep connectivity to big companies, educational institutions, the universities. The city government is actually gives a shit about the tech community now, which wasn't true 5 years ago. So we have all of this now is happening, and so I think, you know, the New York tech community is in a great place right now.